Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the Rogue Painter channel. I am JD, the Rogue Painter. So today is just going to be a quick tutorial video on painting scenic bases from Games Workshop. This base in particular is from the Mortal Realms magazine as part of the Mortal Realms series that I'm doing. So I figured I'd jump into one of the more detailed bases that I have. This one came with the Stormcast castigators. What I'll do one of these every now and then. So obviously we've got this one from the castigators. I'll do one from the secretors. Then we've got some chain rasps, night haunts, banshees, and some glaive wraiths. With these bases, the Stormcast Eternals are more sort of stone and marble type scenery, and the night haunts are more graveyards, you know, ruin, broken trees and sort of not swamp but sort of graveyardy ruin type stuff. So without further ado, let's get started with this. So the first thing we're going to do is cover the majority of this base with a layer of Eshin Grey. Now I've primed this base with a grey spray paint from a local hardware store here in the UK. Obviously you can prime yours with whichever you want. I just find grey is a nice neutral colour to use on all my models, plus that particular spray paint is nice and cheap. It's about £3.50 a can, so works great. So obviously if you've sprayed your Stormcast in gold, then you may have done the bases as well. All it means is that you'll be taking putting down a few more layers just to get that gold to disappear, you know, get the layers to cover. So just going to thin down the paint a little bit here, not too much, just enough to get it workable. And all we're going to do is just go over all the brick areas. This will take a couple of coats, as the Eshin Grey is a layer paint, not a base paint, so it is a little bit thinner anyway. And obviously to avoid streaks and thick brush marks, we've thinned it down slightly. But generally you want to cover almost the entire base here in this, with exception to, if you can help it, with exception to the leaves, a couple of bones around here, the skull, and the dirt patch around the edge. So I'll just get on with this, and we'll jump over to the next part now. Okay, so once we've got all the Eshin Grey down, we're going to take some Mournfang Brown and just do around the edge, the mud area around the edge of the base there, as well as the side of the base. So as always, thin it ever so slightly just to make it apply a little bit easier. And again, just around the edge, avoiding the leaves, covering any of this textured area. And I wouldn't worry too much if you go onto some of the stone, as we will be applying a dry mud onto some of the stone that comes off of the mud here anyway. So I'll get on with this and we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, so once you've got that done, next up will be some Xandri dust that we're going to use for the two small bones and the skull there. So we'll just apply a small amount of that to our wet palette here. And again, this is a base paint, so thin it ever so slightly. And then just a quick application of that over the top here. I am using a Army Painter Warhammer Regiment, Wargamer Regiment, sorry, brush here. But the Games Workshop standard brushes or any number 2 paintbrush will be fine for doing these paint jobs. Paintbrush wise, I find anything from a size 2 down to a size 0 is enough, you know, for pretty much anything. And while we're doing this bit, guys, I will say if you enjoyed the video, remember to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button up the top there so that you can follow the channel, support the channel, which will give me the motivation to continue making videos. And I do have a Twitch channel as well as Twitter and Instagram. The links for those are down in the description below if you want to check those out. If you'd like to support me more than just with a follow or a sub, then I do have a Patreon going. You can support me through that. All money from, you know, as I'm a Twitch affiliate, any money from that, as well as donations and support through Patreon, will always go back into YouTube videos and streaming, be it buying extra paints, miniatures, miniatures for giveaways, anything like that. You know, it's always put into improving the channel. Nothing is spent on, you know, just personal enjoyment. We do have one extra bone down here, so it's 3 bones and the skull. Right. So once we have that done, we'll move on to the leaves. And for this, we're going to go with some autumn colours. So we're just going to randomly paint the leaves here with some Caliban green for the green tones, some Death Guard green, as well as some Scrag brown, some Avalon sunset, and some Mephiston red, just for various colours, tones, highlights. But you can pretty much do anything that you want. If you want more of a spring type look, then you can go with brighter greens, sort of like moot green. I think it's called moot green, warpstone glow, you know, colours like that. So obviously with the first few, just going to go pick out a few of the leaves, just give them a quick go over. There you go, so that's that one. Then for the Death Guard green, Scrag brown, Right, and then what we can do, just on some of the leaves here, we can just put in a bit of the scrag brown on the tips. Leaves tend to die sort of more from the tips down, so these ones are just sort of a little bit. See if we can get that there. There we go. Just a little bit of Mephiston red, and go back on top of the scrag brown. Just put a few small bits about, reddish them up. You don't have to do this on all of them. You can do it a little bit on the Death Guard green as well. And the same with the Avalon Sunset. It's a lot more of a yellowish, you know, sort of more of a warmer yellow for this. What we'll do, we'll mix that in a little bit with our green, and that will give us the highlight for some of these lighter green colours, brighter green leaves, sorry. Right, so that's our leaves done. Much more of an autumn look to this than I normally do. Right, so with that, the only base colour left to do is we're going to use some Retributor armour, just to put a gold trim around this sort of alcove that looks like it's fallen over just around here. So we don't need a lot of this, and because we are going to be using the side of the brush, we don't want this thinned down or anything. Just use it as is from the pot. And all we're going to do is just use the side of the brush just to pick up that edge there. And the same with this area here. You could do this pretty much any colour you want. You could do it in white, but I think the gold just makes it stand out a little bit. Right, so that's that. Alright, now we're just going to take some Dawnstone, a small amount of this, and we're going to do, or I'd say it's almost a dry brush, but with a little bit more paint on than you normally would, so it's more of a loaded dry brush. What I tend to do is load the paint on. As you can see, it's not a blob or anything, and then we'll just take some of the excess off. And all we're going to do is go over the top of all that Eshin grey. Excuse me. Just picking up the majority of the edges and the top. You can leave some of the grey in there like this. Obviously try not to go up too close to the edge of the the alcove that's fallen down on top of it. We're just going for the tops of it here. This doesn't have to be perfect, it gives it a more weather worn look. Just pick up the side of the rocks there, anything around the edges. I'm using a flat brush here. If you have one of the angled dry brushes, you can use that, but I find that, you know, any flat brush allows you to get up to edges and gives more of a uniform coverage than a round brush. And obviously, as the paint comes off the brush, you know, there's less paint on the brush. You can do more of a dusty highlight on some of the other areas. But like I say, we are looking to cover the majority of the base with this. And what I'm trying to do is the flat stones around the fallen alcove, more coverage, just so they stand out a little bit from that. Right, so once that's done, we're going to go ahead and apply a wash of Agrax Earth Shade. So just some Agrax Earth Shade there, and we're going to apply that over everything we can. So all around the edge here. Get it down into those cracks between the stone slabs, over the bone. This would also give a more muddy appearance over some of the stone. You can go over the leaves, you know, you can cover pretty much the entire thing with this. It doesn't matter. Just try and remove some of the excess from the flat surfaces. Make sure you get it down in that crack there as well as these ones. Pull it off the surface. And then let that dry. Okay, so now that the wash has had time to dry, we're going to go in and start highlighting some of the areas. So first of all, we're going to take some Zandri dust, which we do have on our palette here already, And we're just going to dry brush this over all the brown areas, just to give a bit of a highlight to them, because the dry brush is going to not be too opaque. The brown will show through and it won't quite look like the Zandri dust. It will look more like a drier mud. Right, and then what we'll do, just take some of that, just dab a few areas just around the edge of the mud here, as it would come down onto the stonework. So that's the mud on the outside edge done. Next we're going to go for some more dawnstone, and this will be just a dry brush over the edges of the stone areas again, just to pick those edges back up after that the wash. And again, this is more of a dry brush this time, and we're just looking to pick the edges up and then maybe a little bit of the surfaces. Right, next up we're going to go for some Ushapti bone, and as you've probably guessed it, this will be for those bones in the skull. So we're just going to pick up the top area of this. And then we can mix a little bit of that in with the Zandri dust, just to get a bit of a mid-tone, just to pull up the side there, just leaving the bottom area as the original Zandri dust. Right, then we're just going to go back over our gold and just retrim that lightly, just to brighten it up. And then with some pallid witch flesh, we're just going to do another dry brush highlight. Just along some of the very edges of the stone, picking up some of that extra detail there. Right, so whilst that is perfectly fine to leave it there, we are essentially done with it. We're just going to put a little bit of moss in some of the areas, and for this we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade and some Moot Green. I'm going to put them in our palette here. Right, and then we're just going to sort of dab this into some of the areas, get the majority of that off the brush. I'll try and keep this as thin as possible, and we'll just go for just a few areas around the edge of the stones here. And do a little bit around the bones, so it's creeped up onto the bones. Right, and then as that dries, we'll go back in again, just around the base of what we did, just to darken or brighten that up slightly. Obviously you can make this any shade that you want. If you want more of a darker green, add more Agrax. I wouldn't go much brighter than what we're doing here. Right, and there we have it. One completed base. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, please leave that a thumbs up. And like I say, subscribe, it does help the channel, and you'll be able to catch more videos. We do Mortal Realms Monday, so a review of the issue and how to paint the miniatures that came with that issue. It's every Monday, with exception over the next couple of weeks, just as I'm waiting for deliveries to catch up, because obviously certain things with coronavirus and me changing my subscription to premium. So yeah, until next time, guys, take it easy and get painting those minis.